I'm Bill Patton, and I'm a senior contributor to Sports Ed TV. In fact, I'm planning to get back to blogging for them on a monthly basis. Anyway, today I want to talk about a particular kind of player, and I'm going to tell you a story about one player that I coached. And I've had a few players like this in my career, and it's I hope that you can relate. Maybe this is you as a player that you need to deal with the fact that you have been given some offensive talent. So there's something that's sort of true in sports is that certain types of players take longer to develop, right? So in basketball, they say big men take longer to develop. They have to grow into their bigger bodies and get themselves more coordinated. So, point guards are going to run around everybody for a long time. And then the big men are going to come into full flower. And then they will be dominating the game, right? Guards can dominate the game early. Big men dominate the game later. All right. And then in hockey, defensemen take a little bit longer to develop than forwards, just because there's more details to it, more responsibilities, things along those natures, right? Pitchers are probably one of the slower developing players. Shortstop, there's such a glut of shortstops because everybody wants to be a shortstop, and so teams have lots of them, lots and lots of shortstops. So if you're a shortstop, you're going to have to wait your turn. It's going to take some time for you to get to the big leagues. But if you can play second base too, that could be your ticket in, right? Or even third base. So, all right, but I digress a little bit. So now offensive players take longer to develop than players who are less offensively gifted, because the players that don't hit the ball very hard, the players that don't have a big serve and a big forehand, they have to rely more on their feet and their positioning, and they have to they have to play smarter necessarily. So they're going to develop a little bit sooner because they're not trying to learn about risk reward ratio so much. Their default position is they're just trying to keep the ball in. So, but you have a player who's got a big serve and a big forehand. It takes a little time to learn how to use that. So now I'm going to tell the story about a kid. So his name was Jason, and Jason's dad was a 3-0, but then unfortunately, his dad was in an accident and then was confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And unfortunately, I think that plays into it because, his dad's own ability to play tennis was wrecked. So then he started playing vicariously through his son. Well, Jason had a big serve and a big forehand. And when I first met him, he was 15 years old. And he was already playing about at a 4 or 5 level at that time. And, I thought, wow, this kid's got some talent. And, at age 15, he could play college tennis, no problem, right? If he's just, learns to grow into that. So we went about the business. I went about the business of showing him, serve here, use a significant amount of flat serves. If you start to miss too much, you can hit some kick serves in to keep your percentage up, that kind of thing, right? Not all out attack. I'm not telling him to go for aces all the time. I'm not telling him even to go for aces. Just hit some strong serves, get some unreturnable serves, force errors, and then look to be aggressive with that first ball. Don't give up your offensive advantage. So, it's starting to take, and he's playing better, and he's playing better matches. And But the one thing I'm noticing is if he's playing somebody who's a pusher, then he would tend to get a little bit frustrated that he wasn't able to end the points more quickly, and then he would start to push himself, right? So I started to talk with the dad about this, but then there was a lot of questioning going on. Well, what about being consistent? And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, if you have the skills to hit the occasional ace and force a lot of errors on your opponent, that's where tennis is won, forcing errors. This has been known for a long time, that forcing errors is the way to win. Bill Jacobson with CompuTennis was maybe one of the first to pull out the stat of forced errors in the 80s. Maybe might have been earlier than that. So then he created a dedicated Epson laptop that only took statistics. And I used to use one of those for college matches when I was an assistant coach. So anyway, so Jason is now playing tournaments and playing well. And so, I have him, being more offensive when he's playing practice matches with me. So, and I'm on his case. I'm like, don't go non-aggressive just because you missed one. So then a funny thing would happen. His dad would show up to watch him play a match, and he would almost instantly go non-aggressive. And I'm like, hey, sir, can I have you? Hey, can you watch Jason from like over there a little bit? Because, I'm working with him on becoming more aggressive. Do you see how good his serve is? Do you see how good his forehand is? And he gets some winners off of them, but more importantly, he forces errors in the other player. And, the dad, I don't know that the dad ever acknowledged what I was saying. I think I remember him ever once saying, yes, my son has a really good serve and a really good forehand. So that's a problem. So then it all came to a head one day when Jason was playing a tournament that I was running, which was nice because I'm running it, so I'm kind of free to roam because I have all my staff, doing all their stuff, right? So I have my staff putting matches out, and I have court monitors and referees and all that. So I'm the tournament director. I can go wherever I want. So I'm watching Jason play, and so this was a great thing. I'd get my kids to sign up, and then I get to watch them play at a tournament. And I'm the director, and so it's that's a good reason to run a tournament right there, just for your kids. So I'm watching Jason play, and he's playing this kid who's a pusher, and he starts off aggressively, and then he had gotten into this pattern where if he made 2 errors in the same game, then he would start to go non-aggressive. And it didn't matter if he had a winner and forced 3 errors and won the game. If he made 2 errors, he would go non-aggressive. So anyway, so his dad shows up again to watch this match where he's playing a pusher. He makes a couple of errors. I'm pretty sure his dad was, giving him the stink eye or whatever, because, telling him that he needs to be more consistent. And then he found a way to lose the match. I can't remember any of the details of the match, but he did not win. And it might have been in 3 sets, but I felt like if Jason just stuck to his game, he would beat this kid. Because the kid didn't have any weapons. And he was forcing errors on him. But then the other kid, just by virtue of pushing, was creating a few more opportunities for unforced errors. So Jason loses. But then, so anyway, they go away, and I can tell that the dad's not that happy with me, and that he thinks that I'm the reason why Jason's losing because because I'm teaching him not to be consistent. So, this is not a good thing when you have parents who are second guessing the coach without dialogue. I mean, okay, come and talk to me. Let's talk this out. Let's explain this thing fully. But don't have a little secret mission with your kid if you're hiring a coach to coach your player, your son, right? So this is something that happens a lot. It happens way too much. And this is part of the problem to getting to tennis 301, is that a lot of people never get to tennis 301 because of a parent or because of the conventional wisdom of what they learn at the park, or with the conventional or the wisdom that they learn from the old time tennis pro, who teaches either the all out aggressive game or the run around, hit the one more ball back in the court game, right? And nobody is able to break free from the mold that the coach has cast them in or the parent has cast them in. So then in the next round, there was a kid who was just about the same level as Jason, and he was beating that kid. So I called them up, and they didn't live too far away, actually. They lived about 10 minutes away from the court. So I was like, Jason, you got to get over here. You got to watch this, right? So Jason sits down and watches this kid playing who has just about the same amount of tools as he does. In fact, I don't know. I think Jason was better than this kid. And so that kid stayed on his offensive game, didn't get frustrated if he made 1 or 2 errors per game, because he's getting a winner and he's forcing 2 or 3 errors. So his forcing game is winning more points than he's losing by the occasional unforced error. And you can have 2 in a game and not lose. 1 is better, but you want that. You want to have those aggressive errors if you're playing an aggressive game. And so you can even tell yourself, at least you're being aggressive. And this is something I had to shift into, because I was a overly conservative, trying to be consistent player because of the things that my father had beaten into my head. And then I had to learn to be a more aggressive player. And I used to have to slap myself on the leg and say, stay aggressive, even if I made what seemed like a disheartening error, because I had to play my game. And I was able to come out on top a lot of times because of that. Okay, so they watched this match, and then afterwards we're talking, and I'm like, do you see how he stayed with his consistently aggressive game? He didn't get discouraged by 1 or 2 errors in a game. And so anyway, I think Jason, understood. And then the dad, again, we had no discussion about that. So they go away, and that was the last time Jason attended my program. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. And so anyway, I probably called them a couple times. Hey, Jason, haven't seen you at the clinic lately. How are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so they went to another coach who teaches consistency. And then later that coach was arrested for something having to do with things that were found on his computer. Anyway, so he taught consistency, and that's not good, because not good for a kid who's got real offensive game. I mean, I really thought that Jason was really looking like solid college prospect at age 15, easy, at least D2, possible D1 if he really went for it. And the league that I was coaching in at that time was sending kids to D1 pretty frequently. So anyway, now here's the fun part, though. Later, then Jason is playing for a high school that I coach against. So I'm coaching the top team in the school, in the league, and he is playing for the third best team in the league. Sometimes they were the second best team. Every once in a while, if they were having a really strong year and the number one team was having a down year, they could actually win the league or tie for the league title. But the school that I was at was winning it most always. So anyway, so it's a number 2 singles match, and my player's playing Jason, and Jason is winning the first set 4-1. He's up 2 breaks. He's being really aggressive, and everything's looking great. And so I come over in the changeover, and my freshman guy is like, "Hey, coach, what do I do here? This guy is just on fire." And I'm like, "Oh, don't worry. I know exactly what you need to do. Let's play maximum defense for a little while and slice him a couple of balls low, and then just wait for him to make 2 or 3 errors, and then he'll go non-aggressive, and then you can turn the tables on him." So sure enough, my guy wins, I think 7-5, 6-2 or something like that, and going away. And how sad is that? I was sad for Jason that it was that easy to beat him. Just play a little bit of maximum defense and be patient. I mean, do the thing that makes Jason implode. Now, if Jason had ever learned to stay fully on his game, I think he wins that match. And then as it was, then he was then conflicted because he's like, "Oh, wait a minute, there's the coach that tried to teach me to be aggressive, and my dad's not here." So he kind of went back and forth between pushing and trying to be aggressive. So as it stood, then Evan I just told him, just keep the defensive pressure on him the whole time, because in that defensive style, you're better than him anyway. But so you just protect yourself against what could be his best game if he ever decided to play it. And so the point of this story is that when we use words like consistency, people interpret it to mean never missing. But, the interesting thing is people who are trying to be consistent will still miss. And then what do? Then they just beat themselves up. Every time they miss, they go, "Oh, that's another evidence of not being consistent." And so where's the help in that? Instead, what we need to do is figure out what are the tools that a player has to work with, right? Is it their speed? Is it their ability to place the ball to targets? Is it their power? Is it a combination of those things? Are they great at spinning the ball in a variety of different ways? What is their strength? What is the best thing that they do? And get them to use that. And then also not to be afraid to make some errors along the way while they learn to use that. So I love coaching all kinds of players. And when you're teaching somebody to be a disruptive player, right? Then they're going to miss some of their spin shots because they just went for a little too much underspin on one ball or something. And you go, "Hey, when you go for that particular ball, don't cut it so much." Or then, "Hey, if you're way down there, you have to remember to lift the ball up." So it's these things that you learn by degrees. And so a playing style, a tennis 301 playing style, will take longer to develop because it takes more time thinking through the little details, right? Which brings us back to hockey. One thing I really love about hockey is the so-called details of the game, because there's so many little things that happen where, if you can advance the puck this way instead of that way and not give up a turnover, but being aggressive, this is how you win, right? And I'll leave you with this. This is where I'm going to wrap it up. So Dr. Cheryl Calder, who's was the first one to establish a PhD in visual training research. Her goal when she works with Chelsea Football Club and Liverpool and F1 drivers and NFL wide receivers and professional tennis players is that they get 1% better. So as you're going this week to develop your tennis 301 game, whether you're the power player, whether you're pressuring time and space, pressuring movement, disrupting rhythm, or the dreaded run around and hit one more ball kind of player, then get 1% better at that. Find out where is the problem of a certain shot that you need to make, and learn to make that one shot and make it, 3 or 5 more times in a match, and you're going to be more than 1% better. And then you're going to find that you win more matches that way because you make more shots, and you make more shots of the kind that are indicative to the strategy that you're trying to play. So your tactics support your strategy, okay? And your strategy should all be based on your physical skills, your mental way that you want to play, and an expression of your personality at the end. Although sometimes people need to grow into that. I mean, it's really interesting how sometimes you have some mild-mannered people and they don't necessarily, their personality is not powerful, but their game is. And so they kind of have to grow into being a powerful player and realizing that they can destroy the other player. It takes time to grow into that, right? But the destructive thing is if you have somebody pulling them the other way by being fearful of missing. Because playing the aggressive game, you will miss a little bit more. You can ask Steffi Graf. You can ask. All right. Thank you, Lewis. I appreciate the comment. I'm going to go look at that later. This is a big moment because I'm on StreamYard and I'm live on YouTube, and I finally see a live comment coming in from Luis. So thank you for that. I'm going to read your comment here and see what we got. Thank you so much. You really think the game at a bigger level. I'm learning a lot. Oh, thank you for the compliment. I really appreciate that. So, Luis, if you want to ask a question about something about what I've said, I will definitely respond to you. I'm about to wrap this one up. But what I was going to say is you have to learn to play sort of not afraid to play your game. But if you have people whispering in your ear, pulling you back, telling you to be afraid to miss, then you need to look at people like Roger Federer and Serena Williams at her peak, and Steffi Graf, and even Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi. And Agassi to a lesser degree because he obviously was hitting a lot more balls in at the end, but they weren't particularly afraid to miss. Because you have to, that's the risk reward ratio. You have to go for your shots. So anyway, I will land there. I'm going to end there. I'm going to land my plane right now. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.